Hello everyone, and welcome to another very special episode. She Scores Bangers is teaming up with the Northern Super League over the next few weeks to bring you exclusive interviews with players and others that are gearing up for their inaugural season, set to kick off on April 16th. The NSL, founded by former Canada International Diana Matheson, is Canada's first ever professional women's soccer league, with 6 clubs based in Halifax, Calgary, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. You can catch the action on CBC, TSN, and other online streaming platforms. Today's guest has made history in the league without even stepping foot on the pitch. The first ever signing of the Northern Super League, she grew up a few hours away from the club she'll be representing. Representing youth clubs from all across the region, she stayed home for her collegiate soccer career in London, Ontario, and continues to hold multiple goal-scoring accolades and records that are yet to be broken in the region. Spending a brief time in Europe in places like Hungary and Italy, she thrives best at home and continues to be one of the best goal-scoring Canadians this country has produced. Looking to find the net for AFC Toronto, scaring all the defenders away, it's none other than Jade Kovacevic. Jade, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing lovely. Thank you very much.
How
How are
was the
you?
cold? I'm doing really well. How's the cold Toronto weather and within the Toronto area treating you?
You know what? Here at my place, like winds are hitting 80 kilometers an hour. And yeah, I'm just excited for it to all go away. So,
Well, you know what? We're excited for the winter and the wind to go away, which would mean probably April, because April will not have any of that. And April is also the NSL launch date. So I think there's
yeah,
a lot to look forward to when it comes to April.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Jade, you kind of grew up not too far away from the Toronto area, sort of the Hamilton, Waterdown region. And that's
Yes.
where all the good fun soccer started. I'd love to hear about how you started playing soccer and kind of fell in love with the sport at a year or at a very young age.
Yeah, I started because my brother was playing and I was very much a girl that was in the mud, getting in there and wrestling around a little bit. So whatever my brother did, I wanted to do better. That was just like the competitive spirit in me. But I started playing in Flamborough at the time, and back in the day, there wasn't, certain levels. You were either playing house league or then you would jump right into what was called rep. And that's kind of where the passion began, as I was about 8 years old playing with 10-year-olds, and I could see a gap and I always wanted to kind of close that. So yeah, water down, big Lambro.
Who would win, you or your brother?
He would always up until like I'd say grade 8, that competitive, we would play in the garage, we play in the backyard. There'd be so many fights, so many times where we would go at each other, but at the end of the day, like that's the competitive spirit that's been built in me because of that. So yeah, a
Did
good
you
time.
did you dabble around with different sports or was it always kind of like soccer?
Yeah, I did gymnastics for a little bit as a kid, but it got to the point where you had to kind of pick one. Now you see, in my coaching, you see dual sport athletes that are able to manage both. But back then, it was kind of like you pick one and then you go with it. So did that, but then throughout middle school and high school, I was doing cross country, a little bit of basketball,
Mm.
but footy kept my heart.
I feel like it's such a common trope to see soccer players dabble around with cross country. Like I think there's a really interesting come together with
100%.
cross country and soccer. Was
Oh yeah.
your cross country team like half soccer players too, or not this time round?
No, my cross country team, I did this throughout middle school and high school. And the schools I went to, I grew up in Acton, very, very small farm town type. But the schools I went to were very athletic, like had some amazing athletes, not so much, soccer players, but hockey players or just runners, and had some amazing coaches. And obviously running directly translates with football, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of encouragement there from my coaches as well. I still encourage my players I coach to take that on because it makes the game a little bit more fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely followed cross country throughout my high school career because with football being so busy, it was really the only sport that I could take on outside of that at the same time.
Well, cross country certainly helps with soccer running. It also probably helps with beep tests before
Oh,
you start doing the soccer training.
Yeah.
But after what I would say a very, I think, exciting time playing here at home, college came about. And you went over to LSU for a very short time. Talk to me about the decision of deciding to go, obviously, to collegiate soccer in the United States and just sort of that process before you decided to return home.
Yeah, back in the day, I was part of the provincial program and they would have something called Scouting Weekend. And that would be, you get 300, 400 coaches at the OSA watching you play. And, if you were a part of that program at the time, it was highly likely that you were going to get an opportunity. And I got to visit a couple schools. LSU stole my heart for, reasons that I look back on now that I could have done a little bit better in terms of picking my school. But I fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with what, you could get as an athlete in terms of resources rather than, the reason why it wasn't a good fit for me was just based off of, being so far from home. I realized very quickly that I was a home girl.
Mm,
And at the end of the day, the style of football that was being played, it just wasn't a great fit for me. And that's okay, right?
mm,
It's a learning lesson. And now, with the opportunities to go into a transfer portal and be picked up by another school, that just wasn't there back in 2012. And,
mhm.
you kind of either had to go under the table and sneak your way about it, or I just did not have the guidance that I wish I did. But at the end of the day, LSU was an incredible experience. I met some great friends that I still keep in touch with to this day.
Mhm.
I did fairly well on the pitch. And, it was just a good taste of what the NCAA D1 was like. And at the end of the day, I saw myself coming back home and making my roots over here.
I think when we look across your career and your journey, it does very much say, homegirl, you like to stay here, home, and Canada, which I think is great because now we have the NSL. But like, what are some of the challenges and the frustration of knowing that you wanted to pursue soccer? You wanted to do this professionally, but there was no avenue to do that here at home.
Yeah, you know what? I think frustration is an interesting word because I'm not sure, back I was frustrated. I was more so very eager
Mm,
to find the next opportunity. And that always came with packing up a suitcase and getting on a flight that was minimum 8 hours, or 5 hours, whatever you want to call it. But
mm,
I think, now with the power that we have with the NSL being here and influencing the growth of the game, it's everything to those players that want to fulfill their dreams, whether it's in high school, and delaying going to college, or they're in college and they're like, you know what, this is an opportunity I don't want to pass out on. It's here and it's an opportunity for girls to live their dreams at home in front of their families, having a support system, which we all know is crucial, right? And can absolutely enhance your performance. So the fact that it's finally here is a very, I like to call it a very nice bow on my career. So I feel very honored to be a part of the inaugural year, and it's a dream come true for me.
mhm. And actually, let's talk about that inaugural year and a little bit more about the NSL. You were the first ever signing of the league, point blank. You opened up kind of this beautiful chapter of what is to come and the series of many players that were announced after. I mean, like, do you get shivers when you think about
Oh,
that?
I still got to pinch myself for sure. It came as a surprise to me. I did know that I was first player to paper with AFC Toronto, which in itself is another huge honor to be able to represent my roots and the GTA. That's I don't
Mm.
know. I don't even know how you would try to describe that. But then when I did, find out that it was the first release for the league, it's I don't know. I truly I just feel so grateful, and it makes me feel that the hard work that you put in, and the passion that you have for the game, if you keep your focus, like great things can come. And this is great, but this opportunity is like way up here, right? And it's just yeah, I'm very honored.
How did the opportunity materialize? I think some of the questions that we've seen around from many fans is how are players signing for a league and they haven't seen any other players sign? So tell me about that process of talking to some of the leadership, talking to some of the individuals behind AFC Toronto, and kind of seeing that project come together and you put, like you said, pen to paper.
Yeah, like I've been hearing rumblings about this league for years. years. And I was in a coaching role at the time when I started to hear like, okay, this might actually become a little bit more serious. I suffered a Achilles rupture back in May of 2023. So full blown right into my coaching career, getting my licensing completed. And the groups that I was working with at North Toronto at the time, they were highly competitive girls, and most of them were going on to get scholarships. So you can understand like the dedication it takes for that program. And, as a player, it's very interesting being in the coaching role because when you show up to training and sessions set up, it's like, okay, yeah, this is great. Like it's so fun. But on the coaching side, there's so much preparation, there's so much learning and planning that has to go into it. And so when I did hear, it was actually from Billy at the time. He was my technical director over at North Toronto. This was, November of 2023, moving into 2024. I was just learning how to walk again based off of my injury. It was a very, very brutal process. But he's like, if you are going to consider playing again, then you need to get back on the pitch. And this is actually happening. And if you want the opportunity, like you got to work for it. And there's a lot that you need to showcase in order to prove that you're ready. And so I obviously couldn't sleep at night because there's, when you feel like you're kind of not in the right place at the right time and you got to change some things. Being in a role of a coach that I was in terms of the high performance program at North Toronto, all of these girls, a little bit of their future is kind of in your palms with the education that you're giving them on the field, the growth, the opportunities, exposure. And you can't do both. You can't invest in yourself to the level that it's going to take versus support all of these players. And so made a tough decision around February, March to exit the program as a coach and completely invest in myself as a player and prepare myself for the opportunity to take on this role here. And that's when I kind of zoned in, very, very aggressively with my training and preparation. And I think for the most part for me, it was more so like I wanted to be able to run again and play the game again post injury. Not even just to be able to reach this opportunity, but to show myself that, hey, you're going to be fit in your future and, your limitation is only what you set. And I ended up having a pretty good year and supported, of course, by an amazing team. Very, very great environment from physio to coach to player support off field. And like I said to you before, your support system and your environment truly can impact your ability to perform, not just, physically on the field, but emotionally, mentally. And of course, as the season progressed a little bit, Billy and I would chat about these opportunities that are coming up and, the gaps that I would have to close. And of course, when I become obsessed with something, you kind of put your passion into it and the opportunity arose. And I did everything possible, from getting extra sleep, taking cold showers, to make sure that this opportunity was going to come my way.
I think we hear often that Achilles injuries are quite devastating. They're very tough on the body. You just mentioned the recovery process is also quite brutal, I think.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were going to come back to the sport as a player and not just a coach when you suffered that injury?
I don't like saying this because it's not great, but when you suffer something like that, you kind of got to sit back and understand, okay, why is this happening? When you already try to do so many things, right? From eating, sleeping, like I said, taking ice baths. Like I love doing that stuff, but I wasn't overly confident that it was going to happen for me. So I would say, obviously the physical component of recovery is difficult, but the mental aspect and being able to switch back into that high performing gear, yeah, it's a battle. Absolutely. So I think once I put myself, I'm like, okay, you are the focus and you got to start investing in yourself if you want to be able to reach this goal. It definitely changed my lens from more of like, oh my gosh, it's never going to happen to it's going to happen and you're going to make it happen. When you give yourself that power, it was all I wanted. All I wanted. Yeah. So to say back then, was it something that I knew was going to happen? Absolutely not. But once I had the right support in the right areas, it was like, okay, this could actually be possible.
Mhm.
So let's absolutely go for it. And if you don't get it, that's okay. But you can at least try, and here we are.
I think there's so much inspiration in that story because, like you mentioned, you're kind of in this very tough situation. You're in a limbo almost. You're coaching, and then there's this opportunity that you want to buy, and you're pushing yourself, and you make history with it. Like I think that's a story that I think we should cherish in the league and as an AFC Toronto. But speaking of AFC Toronto, what are we expecting to see on the pitch? Like, what's the style of soccer that we're going to see? And I know it's going to be a process. Nothing is going to be
Yeah.
put well together from day one. But what are sort of the philosophy that the players and the coaches are working together on implementing?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're pulling so many personalities, so many styles of play from all over the world, different environments from, national team environments, senior programs, from college environments to high schoolers that are insanely talented individuals that, just need that next little push in their career to then step into the player that they can become.
Mhm.
Um, I'm so excited to play for Marco because I got an opportunity to train with him when I was coming back and re-entering the pitch from my injury with his boys. And his style of coaching is so detailed. It's like kind of hiding what you want to do with the ball, but then still executing on it in everything is with the ball, and we want to respect the ball as much as possible from my understanding. And I'm not sitting here saying that we're going to be taking North Toronto Nitro's identity and bringing it into AFC Toronto. I don't think it's going to be like that because you don't have that same environment. It's a completely new brand. What I will say though is it'll be very entertaining. It'll be a lot of possession, creative, fiery, and I think what's really cool is that we're going to be able to mesh so many different styles, so many different experiences together to bring something that really represents the GTA and really represents AFC Toronto in a way that you won't want to miss a game. Whether you're watching it online, you're in the stadium, it's going to be exciting.
Mhm.
And essentially, I think what we want to do is be an extension of our fans and our support and the type of football that you do see in this region.
Mhm.
And the fact that it's finally here for women at a professional scale, you got to be excited about that.
You definitely got to be excited. I mean, just
Yeah.
listening to you put together the philosophy, I think is I'm getting shivers, and I too cannot wait for April. But I love how you said AFC Toronto reflects the GTA. I think when we look at the team, it's a very diverse team, and the
Yeah.
region across the Toronto area is quite diverse. Is there a player or a teammate that you're really looking forward to building chemistry with on the pitch?
Oh, that's a great question. I have experience with a couple of them.
Mhm.
Obviously, coming from North Toronto, Leah and we played a little bit at Vaughan,
Yeah.
and we got some great chemistry together. So I definitely can't really like narrow in on one, but if I had to pick one, I would say I'm excited to see. I might butcher her name, and I really hope I don't. But Aoi, she's
Mhm.
coming from Korea. I've played against the Korean national team at the youth level, and holy smokes, it's like all of them are on the same page, but like also three steps ahead of us. So it's like being able to learn from that and see how she trains, how she operates in the change room and her preparation, and then also decisions on the field. Yeah, we play completely different positions. I think she's a defender,
Yeah.
but there's so much information there, and I crave information all the time. And so, I think that's going to be really exciting for me to be able to have that exposure to somebody who's seen it all and who clearly can perform at that level. And, you know, um, it's not, I don't also want to shy away from the young players. Like we just announced Kaylee Hunter today.
Yeah.
And I got an opportunity to watch her play at the Interprovincial Championships. Um, I was doing a little bit of hosting for One Soccer at the time, and she was a standout immediately. Like immediately, she was so dangerous on the ball. She would drive at defenders and be creative with it and create goal scoring opportunities. So there's also that to be said is the fact that young and upcoming players, you've got a lot to learn from that too, for sure. And it's just going to be such a mix that I've never seen before. And I think to be able to have the senior player, but also the youth player that's eager, it's a very happy balance.
I think it's a beautiful balance because finally, kind of the I don't want to say maybe the veterans, I think, of the sport are finally getting this opportunity at home with more hunger than ever. And then you have these up and coming kind of generational talent finally getting the opportunity to stay home and get to build a professional resume in Canada. But I mean, I'm really glad you brought her up and you said goal scoring opportunities. I feel like goal scoring opportunities and Jade kind of like mix and match beautifully together. You
like
have some, yep, you have some outstanding records in the NCAA and the OCAA, apologies. And I mean, London, like across the region, your name is with the number of goals that have been scored. In fact, you have the record for the single game goals scored, 9 goals in a game.
Yeah.
Jade, like, talk to me about how much you like hitting the ball and hearing the ripple of the net.
Oh, it's like if I could make that my ringtone, I would. Like that little sound of the mesh when the ball goes down it. Oof, that's a great noise, And it's very hard to compare the feeling of, scoring in the 90th minute, where it's like a derby, and you put the ball away. Please tell me something that's better than that, because I'm obsessed with it. And I really believe, like, yes, you can be good at scoring, you can be good at finding the back of the net, but what makes you great is the players around you. And I've been very fortunate to have teams support me that know my identity, like how I like to play. And at the end of the day, they make my job really easy. So yes, there's a finishing component, and yes, there's like, you got to have some composure and a little bit of grit and, laser beam focus. But I really believe that when the team is on the same page, it's so much easier, and it's so hard to keep up with, right? When I'm not sure if you watch Liverpool play. I was a City fan before that, which is like, it's so contradicting. I know, but like, how can you not love them when you watch them play, one player gets the ball, they're counterattacking with 6 players. It's just the way that they're on the same page and they flow together. I've been a part of those environments, and I truly believe it's a reason why some of my records stand, is because, you're a product of that. So
You're right. A lot of it comes back from teamwork. I think it's so appropriate that we end with a fun question, but one that relates to being a goal scoring machine. Who would you say are the top 3 strikers that you have enjoyed watching from very young Jade up to now? Could be male or female.
of course, Messi. Like, you watch him play and it's like, he's gonna do that. Oh wait, like he does something completely out of this world crazy. So obviously been an inspiration. Marta, for me, is my favorite female player. I try to emulate her in a way, and just her disguise. And obviously I think she's what, 36 right now, and 34, she's still killing it. She just won a championship in the NWSL, and her style of play is still so much flair. So big fan. And of course, if I had to narrow in on it, Alex Morgan. Who doesn't love Alex Morgan? What she's done for the game off the field as well, but her ability to use power and finesse at the same time. I hope that I can bring that into this level. And, I love watching them play, studying some of the things that they do to be successful. And yeah, that would be my 3 players.
3 legendary names, phenomenal ability to score on the pitch. Hopefully, we'll be able to get Marta and Alex Morgan to come watch an NSL game. I think they should
100%.
definitely attend.
Yeah.
Jade, I very much look forward to you kicking it off with AFC Toronto, and I think April is going to be very, very fun. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Miriam.